Testing, check. Ready.
And are we rolling?
Wait, hold on. All right, that's better. Thank you so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you for having me.
You were welcome. I've spent today listening to your new album. And oh my goodness, you said things on this album about the man that you still love that I wouldn't tell my best friend about my ex-husband. You were so open.
Yes, I probably to a fault. I'm so open. I just feel like, you know, like I never meet a stranger, and I just love to talk to people. And then so often I go away going, I should not have said that. Shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have told this person that, or I shouldn't have, whatever. But yeah, the album is really open, and not every single thing word for word is, directly about me. Some of the songs are inspired by my story, but I'm mostly a lyricist. I always want the other writer, especially if I'm writing with, my favorite is to write with a guy and a girl. And then I always want the girl to do the melody, because I'm always afraid that I'm, writing the same melodies over and over. Every songwriter feels that way. Like, didn't I just write this melody? I cannot be creative, So I like to try to write most of the lyrics.
And you wrote every song on this album but one?
Yes, co-wrote.
Co-wrote every song.
Yes, co-wrote. Yeah, I don't know that I could write an entire album alone, but I did co-write every song but one, and then the one is a really happy song called Better Than This, and Daniel Tashian wrote it with a couple other writers, and I just love him, and I've already recorded one of his songs called Nightlight on my album Words that I just love, so.
And I think it's, so interesting how you put this album together, because a lot of people, when they try and tell a story on an album, it feels concepty. It doesn't feel like an album that you could hear a song off of and just go with. But yours tells a gripping story, and yet every song still stands on its own.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always, people always say, well, what can we expect from this new album? And I never know what to say, because it's Sara Evans music. It's, me and all the things that I typically gravitate towards. Like, I love, big electric guitar solos, and very particular about bass and drums and the mix. And I'm in the studio for every second that I possibly can be for production, and the arrangement of the songs, like I have to be in there when all the musicians are in the room tracking, because I want to arrange the songs differently than the demos, or, so I'm kind of a control freak about that. But, it's my name on the music, so I have to make sure it's what I want. And I co-produce every record. But if I'm ever co-producing with someone who won't let me do that, then it makes me very uncomfortable. I start getting really nervous, like, you're gonna take my record and make it something that is not exactly the way I wanted it, or, like, it's like letting a decorator just take over your house and decorate it without you even seeing it. It's not something that I would be able to do. But yeah, and every emotion imaginable in the human heart is probably on this album, because there's a lot of deep stuff.
Well, pride. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, Pride is a song about, different forms of abuse and abuse of alcohol. And, the Bible says pride goes before the fall, so pride is a really, really bad thing to have. It's basically demonic. And when anybody, myself included, is allowing yourself to be prideful, like, you can't be wrong, and you have to win every argument, you have to, always get your way, or whatever that may be, you're opening yourself up to, very negative consequences. And so we thought how neat would it be to write try to write a song about having too much pride. And so that's why we put in, you take whiskey, you take wine, and you the only thing you can't swallow is your pride. And it was an easy song to write, to be honest. I mean, like, we wrote it quickly, and I always say that those are the best ones. If you're sitting there struggling like for hours over a song, you should probably just trash it and start over.
But that song also talks about spousal abuse, and that couldn't have been easy to write. I mean, that couldn't have been maybe the story came out easily on paper, but the decision to share that had to be something that you considered.
Well, I just figured that, it's in country music, we write a lot of real world things, and like, if you think about a George and Tammy song, or Dolly Parton singing, Jolene, please don't take my man. Like, we write about, real life things. And I think that's what's so awesome about country music is that, I'm trying to think of a cool, like, 70s song or whatever. Or I'm thinking about, like, Hank Williams Jr., for instance. One of my favorite songs of his is Old Habits Like You Are Hard to Break. And I'm just like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So you're always just I'm always trying to not shock people, but just be really real.
When you wrote that song, was it always your intention to put it out, or did that come later? Like when?
It came later, because you're writing all these songs, and I'm not one of those people that write year round. Like, if I'm gonna go in to make a record, then I start writing. But it's like 2 years before the record comes out. I mean, Pride was written over 2 years ago. So, what we do is we just start collecting all the songs that I've written, and then we'll have a day or two meeting with publishers, listening to outside songs. And so the answer is no, I didn't know for sure that it would be on the record. I just knew that it was, one of the first songs that I wrote for the record. And then you just start narrowing it down, and then the best ones, rise to the top. And the songs that keep making the list, and the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and those that keep making the list, go on the record. So I was very proud that everybody was in agreement to put that on the record, and then to release it as a single, and then, make a video from it. And my daughter Audrey is in the video.
It was a stunning video.
Thank you.
No, you're so proud.
Thank you. It was so funny, because at one point I yelled at all those actors, and I was like, y'all, this is my real daughter. Stop looking at her. Because she's, we wanted the video to take place in a very, like, male-dominated environment. And I do think, like, some of the actors are like, we're not trying to be disrespectful. We're just acting, and I was like, I'm just kidding you. Like, she can take it. But it turns out she's such a great actress. I was like, well, I wasn't really surprised, because Jay and I have 7 kids together. He has 4 and I have 3. And so growing up, Audrey, like, every other weekend, well, anytime we had all 7 kids together, she was the baby of 7 kids. So she's always been, like, wanting to entertain, and man, I was just blown away by how she did that. The looks on her face and, like, her expressions, like, she was great. And she looks so much like me. So it's so neat, I think, when they show, like, her than me, and it's like young Sara.
So the album tells a story. Did you talk about, did you go from, okay, I want to start the album saying this, I want the album to end this way, and now I need songs that cover each of these things? Like, how did you approach putting that narrative together? I
didn't really do that quite that way, but what happened was I wrote songs based on kind of, like I said, inspired by how I was feeling or doing it on that day. So there are some songs that are, you can tell when the songs get a little lighter, because we were getting back together and we were doing therapy, and again, that was a year and a half, maybe 2 years before this record even came out. So we've, you know, it's just funny because people oftentimes, I believe, and I'm guilty of this too. I think, like when I watch a TV show, like, oh, they just filmed that last week and now I'm seeing it, but it's not. We did go through a separation and it was, you know, the worst time of my life, and I was so depressed and he was so depressed, and you know, so when we started to really, like, especially when I started to really see changes in our relationship, I was just getting so hopeful and excited. Like Gypsy Ways, for instance. That's one of my favorite songs because that was when we were like falling madly in love again, you know, and I was thinking about, you know, like, I'm tired of traveling so much and working so much, and now I just want to, you know, be home more, and, you know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and it's kind of, you know, it is a lot of wear and tear, and traveling is exhausting. And so I love how the end of that song is like, my gypsy ways are about to change. And so that's kind of like, you know, maybe leaving people guessing, like, what does that mean? And it doesn't mean I'm going to quit music or anything like that.
Because when I heard it, that's what I thought you were saying. I
Yeah.
thought Sarah's not going to tour anymore. Is when I heard that song. Is what I thought.
Well, I mean, I want to slow down, you know, and I think when we were having trouble, and all of that time, I just wanted to work nonstop because I didn't want to have like, you know, downtime to think that much. So, you know, we just booked every show, and now I'm feeling that, you know, or maybe at least for like a year, just like slow down a little bit, do other things. And, you know, that's why we started the podcast, so I can still be connecting with my fans, and even more so on the podcast because it's long form talking and interviewing my friends, talking about the music industry and just stuff like that. That's a change in subject from all of the last 2 to 4 years.
That probably feels pretty good.
It does. It feels incredible. I feel so grateful to God. I mean, you just wouldn't believe. Because it's not easy to fix relationships, you know? And, but Jay is just the love of my life. And so I just knew that this can't be, we cannot divorce. But so yeah, I would almost say it's miraculous. I mean, you know, God healed us. He really did.
I think it's great that you were able to put it back together and that you're so able to trust him and you're so happy.
Yeah, thank you.
So I made notes about kind of the progression of the album. Like, I love Downfall. I think that's a
Thank you. I love that song.
brilliant vocal and just such a great song. And then into Sorry Now. And then shifting into Better Than This. It feels like that is the crux. It feels like that's when everything changed in your story, was within those 3 songs, like the turning point.
Yeah, because, you know, as you know, well, relationships are complicated. And so, especially if you're having trouble, one day you might be like not receptive to an apology. You know, like, no, don't even say you're sorry. Just, and then another day you might have the best day, and then you're like, oh, it just doesn't get better than this, you know? And then you'll always be my downfall. It was after I met Jeff Trott, and that's when things kind of started going
Sonically
lighter.
changed,
yeah,
right?
They sonically were changing a little bit from the demos. But yes, they, like, Cleaning Out Your Closet is like super country and that kind of bluegrass singing, and then Downfall is more like heart kind of stuff. You know, do songs that are like, yeah, this is a Sara Evans song, but this is so different for her. And I'm always trying to surprise the fans a little bit, on each album.
Which songs do you think are the biggest surprises on this album?
Probably the fans would say Downfall, Pride.
I think 21 Days is interesting because like you said, like the concept of the song is it takes 21 days to, it's basically like break a habit.
Yeah.
Whether that habit is a person
Eating too much ice cream. I like to change up the way I'm singing and, you know, like, so maybe on this song I'm Pat Benatar and on this song I'm, you know, Patty Loveless. And yeah, 21 Days, I don't know, does that sound like a normal Sara Evans song or sound different?
I wouldn't say that anything was a normal Sara Evans song because I think the album as a whole is so creative.
Well, thank you.
I don't know that anyone would have really thought to write that song had they not had your particular set of circumstances.
Yeah.
And yet, people who don't will hear it and think, if I went to the gym 21 times in a row, would I like it then?
Yeah.
Does it work that way too?
Yeah, would I do it forever?
Will I do it forever? Yep. So I think that's the genius behind that song.
And then we, you know, we're like, wouldn't it be funny to figure out how much time that is? So we got the calculator out.
You mathed.
And we mathed, and we were like trying to figure out how to sing it. You know, so that was really fun. And we were laughing our asses off because trying to fit in, you know, 500 hours, 200 minutes, 2004. And that took a little while.
I bet it did.
Like
that's some melody like magic right there to make it fit.
It was like a puzzle. We shot a video for 21 Days, and it's really cool because there are two Saras. So there's modern day Sara and the 1950s Sara. And we're trying to make the point that it's, you know, never easy to break a habit or go through a breakup. And no matter what decade it is, it's all the same. And so there are a lot of moments on the video where you see current me next to 1950s me. And it was so fun because I, you know, to dress up like the 50s, that was so much fun. And it's really funny. It's almost like you're watching an episode of I Love Lucy because I'm trying so hard, like, not to pick up the phone. And then in the current me, I'm trying so hard not to look at my cell phone. And it's just, and Peter Zavadil directed it. He's directed every single one of my videos except Perfect. But other than that, he's always been my video director and he's the best.
How have people received the songs that they've heard? What's the feedback been from your audience?
Oh, great. I mean, really, and we've been doing Pride and 21 Days and Sorry Now in the shows, and they've never even heard Pride, and I'll get a standing ovation for that song, like, every time. It's amazing. And then they love the other two as well. I mean, I'm so pleased with the response that we're getting. And then in the meet and greets after, people will mention the new songs and, you know, say how much they love them, or, you know, that song meant a lot to me. I think Pride is, you know, if they would play these songs on mainstream country radio, Pride would be like a stronger part two.
Yeah, I love it. So you mentioned like maybe you went to slow down touring, but you just got back from a crazy like West Coast trip.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Tell me what you did out
Well,
there.
we went out to do Live in the Vineyard, and we had a private show, acoustic show out there. The night before I was to perform, we got a call saying that Post Malone wanted me to come to Stagecoach and sing with him Saturday night. And he wanted me to sing Suds in the Bucket with him. So the first thing I did was tell the kids, because, you know, we love Post Malone. And so we got them all on FaceTime, and we were like, guess what? And they were like screaming, and that was amazing. And then I met, his dad was there, and his dad said, you know, your and Brad Paisley's co-headlining tour that you did, the Muds and Suds tour, was the first concert that Post Malone ever went to. And I was like, that is just amazing. And he asked me and Brad and Dwight Yoakam to sing, three of us out of, everybody he could have asked. And he was so nice and so genuine. And I heard him sing at the CMA Awards, and I was just overwhelmed at how country is. And I said to Audrey, I'm like, he is a country singer for sure. And he is. And so we got up there, there was no rehearsal, there was no sound check, nothing, but we didn't need it. He put together an amazing band led by Derek Wells. He was playing guitar and singing every word, and you can see it on the thing, like he obviously really loved that song and wanted me to sing it with him. So that was one of the top highlights of my career.
Oh, and it just happened.
And it just happened, yeah. And I got to meet so many people. It was very fun.
Well, maybe that will lead into other collaborations with Post Malone.
It totally should, because we sing great together. And yeah, we should write a song together and record it, because I feel like our voices are so much alike. Like, he has a fast vibrato and I do too. And I don't know, I love his singing voice. It's amazing. But I also love his other songs too.
So what else is coming up that you're excited about? You have your podcast that we talked about, and what will people hear on the podcast?
The podcast is called Diving In Deep, and they're gonna hear a range of things, because sometimes I'll just sit and tell stories that kind of follow my memoir. Like, this is how I got started in music, this is how I became famous, and then I'll have, a lot of guests on. So like Dennis Quaid was on, and I think, it's just another way for me to connect to my fans, because I love them so much and they feel like friends, So to give them something to watch or listen to, where they're getting to hear Martina McBride and I have a discussion about what it was like to be on RCA Records together, and to pull back the curtain and take a look at what were we really going through, what was really happening, and how did we make it? I think people I'm fascinated with stories like that. So hopefully they are too. So
we have the album, we have the podcast. Is there anything else? Like, what else is Sara Evans?
Well, we're re-releasing the memoir in paperback, which is really cool. So, and then I'm just, touring all summer. It's just music, and promoting the album, and, trying to get these songs played as much as humanly possible. And who knows what else is there. That's what I love so much about what I do for a living, because I can be at a dinner and get a call that, Post Malone wants you to come sing with him, and that changes your whole week in an amazingly wonderful way. And so I love when we get surprises like that, because you can plan out everything. Like, we've got, the whole year planned out with shows and different things and doing the podcast, but those surprises are what we live for.